I want to talk this week, especially since it's so fresh, about Saudi Arabia's planned and now announced sale of $12 billion worth of shares in Aramco. The share sale was teased last week and just completed on Sunday. It was a $12 billion share sale, and it sold out quickly after the deal opened on Sunday, but it's not quite that simple. If you're the one offering shares, typically when you're doing a share sale, you want them to be bought quickly. And in Saudi Arabia these days, IPOs are going quickly. The IPO market is booming, unlike elsewhere in the world. So that's on brand and on trend with what's going on in Saudi Arabia. But when you're selling literally anything, you want it to be bought out quickly. And in this case, the fact that it was bought out quickly, it's a boon for the government, the seller, seeking funds. And newspapers and magazines are reporting that these funds are going to be used to pay for the transformation plan. That's a very general statement. It's hard to really see if that's actually true, but you got to assume that they're raising money for that reason. Anyway, so the government had demand for all the shares in just a few hours, and books were covered within the price range of 26 riyals to 29 riyals. The Saudi government will still own more than 80% of Aramco at the end of the sale. So the other thing that you're interested in to varying degrees, depending on what you're selling, but in stocks and in this unique case of a state-owned diversified energy company, and in the context of the kingdom's ongoing transformation plan, you're interested not only in whether you sell and how fast, but in who is buying. And according to Bloomberg, the order book reflected a mix of local and foreign investors. And they cited 3 people familiar with the matter who didn't want to put their name on that statement. And that's interesting because I believe it was 29% of the IPO that Aramco did, which I'm going to come back to in a moment, in 2019, was from foreign investors, with the rest made of local investors. If Saudi Arabia had a dream customer for this offering, it would be blue chip Wall Street. I guess in London, I was looking this up. What's the London equivalent of Wall Street? It's the city, right? Anyway, so you want blue chip investors in this. You might remember Aramco's IPO listing was being planned in 2019. They wanted to do it in either New York or London, or maybe a dual listing. And that was in 2019. Demand for the offering there was somewhat limited. According to the Wall Street Journal, the valuation then was $1.7 trillion. The price was high. Investors could find better value elsewhere. At the time, Shell and BP offered a 6% plus dividend. Aramco's was 3.85%. So Wall Street and London sort of shrugged. So they went with a local listing in Saudi Arabia. Foreign investors ended up buying only 15%, not 29%, of the $29.4 billion IPO on the Tadawul. So 15% foreign investors. On this latest round, while we don't know who or from where foreign investors are, that they have them is good. Aramco is hoping for a juiced up dividend this time that would lure international funds. I'm also just reading as of this morning that Amin Nasser is in New York courting investors. This again, according to the Wall Street Journal, after introducing a new performance-based payout last year, the company currently has a dividend yield of 6.2%, way better than those of Exxon or Chevron. However, Aramco still looks a lot more expensive than Western super majors on other metrics such as price earning multiples and free cash flow yields. Again, quoting from the Wall Street Journal, quote, "This valuation premium could hold back returns just as it has since the IPO. Including dividends, Aramco shares have generated annual gains of 4% since the end of 2019, compared with 18% at Exxon and 14% at Total Energies." Wow. This is just mostly because the original listed value of the company was so high. So one analyst kind of said, hey, they're growing into that value over time. It's just going to take some time. Aramco shareholders missed out on the share price rallies and bumper payouts delivered by other major oil companies after Russia's 2022 invasion of Ukraine. Aramco's total dividends remained flat that year at $75 billion. But the Saudi government was not true for the Saudi government. They were still a big beneficiary of the 2022 high oil prices. Royalties that Aramco pays to Riyadh, the government, more than doubled as these fees increase in line with oil prices. So there's a new policy with this share statement or with this share offering, and Aramco's dividend should hit more than $120 billion this year. And for now, the interests of Aramco's minority shareholders, like the ones who have invested now and invested earlier, and the Saudi government seem aligned now. So both want more cash handed back to owners. But Aramco's free cash flow doesn't cover its dividends. So there's some concern there. They're going to be paying out these dividends. Company has net cash on its balance sheet for now, paying out more than it generates. And that could eventually bring it up against a self-imposed debt-to-equity limit of 15%. The increased payout may also be hard to maintain if oil prices softened. On that subject, timing is everything in life. OPEC Plus gathered to discuss oil output policy today, Monday, June 3rd. The group agreed to extend its production cuts into 2025 while winding down some of those curbs from later this year. So just kind of interesting stuff coming out on the Aramco share sale. We both did some research on this over the weekend. Really a lot more complex than kind of just the title might say. I mean, great piece from the Wall Street Journal on this. Good news that foreign investors were part of the mix here. Great news that it was subscribed so quickly if you're offering it. And then some mixed news on the mechanics on how the investment round will work and what it means for the kingdom's finances going forward. But still a pretty positive story here in the context, especially as I mentioned at the beginning of this segment, 659 billion riyals, $176 billion in orders for 4 Saudi Arabian companies for IPOs this year. So, I mean, IPOs in Saudi, really hot right now, very hot IPO market if you're listing. And Aramco just saw some success there.
Yeah, it's really exciting news, actually. And I think it's quite common in Saudi for the IPO to sell out kind of instantly.
Especially
one
recently,
of those,
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But not only recently, like even kind of thinking about certain banks when they went public. I'm thinking of the National Commercial Bank, which is now SNB after it merged with the whichever other bank it merged with. I was always an NCB customer. So for me, that's the one that I remember. But
it's on the tip of my tongue. What is it? It's NCB and was it Samba?
No, it wasn't Samba, was it? Maybe it was Samba.
Yeah, it was Samba. Yeah,
was it?
I'm sorry to
Okay.
interrupt, but yeah.
No,
NCB,
thank
Samba
you
merger,
for reminding me. I can never remember that particular merger, and I can never remember what the new bank is called. I'm like, NCB, no, it's not that. What is it?
SNB.
SNB, because they're so similar. Wow. Okay. We can cut all of that out. Anyway, yes, when NCB went public, it sold out right away as well. People really want in as early as possible when they have a lot of trust in the company. And Aramco is as trustworthy as anything in Saudi. It's synonymous with stability, with efficiency, with capabilities. It is, and then being an EP girl, as you call it.
I like how that's stuck. Yeah.
In the Eastern Province, it's everybody's dream is to work in Aramco. Every child really grows up thinking that's where they're going to go because it's such a huge presence. All companies have contracts with Aramco. They're listed as vendors. If you're selling anything, producing anything in the Eastern Province, you want to be on Aramco's vendor list. So it's definitely a company that people trust. It's also the company that comes in when there are other, issues, right? So if there's a problem or a delay in construction, Aramco will come in and save the day. They're just known for doing things very, very methodically, efficiently, and also transparently. So there was a huge push a few years ago to really make sure that processes were enhanced and made more transparent. They're a big influence on how other companies do business in terms of their ethical practices, in terms of their compliance, their governance structures. So it's, in terms of why it sells out quickly or why it sold out quickly in Saudi, specifically for local investors and why people wanted to be part of it is because they really do trust that the company is stable and it's going to grow and continue to increase its share prices. So yeah, it's interesting to think of that side of who Aramco is inside Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, that is interesting. And that speaks to this sort of local appetite for something like this. The international crowd has a very different outlook because they're sort of looking at beyond. I mean, they're looking at Aramco as an oil company that is diversifying into other interests, which really almost every oil company is doing, especially the publicly listed ones. They're investing in other things, and definitely not to the extent that Aramco is doing with all of their different venture funds and other direct investments and co-investments into the space. But what international investors are looking at is they're saying this is an oil company, but the company is in a way an arm of the Saudi government, of the Saudi state. A lot of the Saudi government and the Saudi state gets their revenues from Aramco and its ownership of Aramco. So does the PIF. And there was a recent transfer of dividends of shares from the Aramco to the PIF, in part because of the high dividends that are going to be on offer. And if you're sort of a guy sitting in Wall Street or in London, you're saying, well, what else do we have going on here? We have oil price and we have oil price stability, and Saudi is in control of that through OPEC Plus. But we also have the PIF investing in the Saudi economy in ways that may not be solely focused on maximizing returns. They may be doing it so that it's, develops a local economy and may not be the most efficient investment. So there's a lot of externalities when you're looking at it from the outside looking in. But when you're, as you just said very well, when you're a Saudi and you're looking at Saudi Arabia as an investment opportunity, you're saying, hey, there's no better company out there than Aramco. So not surprising that the locals loved this offering, and I expect it to be the same thing going forward for others as well.
Yeah, and to have ownership in the most, relevant company within the country definitely means something to most Saudis. I think that, so LSE, by the way, the London Stock Exchange, it is in the city, but yeah, you would just say the LSE or the London Stock Exchange, I think. But yeah, anyway.
But wait, hold on. So what if I want to refer to the
place?
Wall Street is not because there's two exchanges on Wall Street, so I don't mean the NYSE or the NASDAQ. I mean the idea of American finance in New York.
I mean, the city.
The city. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Can we have an expert come on this show in a few weeks and discuss the various things about London finance? Would be great.
Yes, we can. I think we have somebody scheduled to come on, and somebody I know, sort of, in a couple of weeks. But yeah, it's definitely in the city. And when people talk about working in the city, they instantly think finance, right? Because that's where the financial hub is within London. And then the city is its own kind of borough as well. Borough, I think you would say in American, but the boroughs here. And so it has its own, there's the Lord Mayor of the city of London. And he kind of, I don't know, we could talk about that another time when I have more information, but there's it's his own kind of entity. He makes his own decisions. They invest in things differently. They have to, I think that king needs permission to go to the city from the Lord Mayor. There's something like that. That's what I was trying to remember. But anyway, we're really off topic here.
This is how they always go. They always start that way. You start off topic, or you start on topic and then it drifts, and then you just cut it off when you're just like, hey, we're now talking about the Lord Mayor inviting the king to go visit London. And also a good time to cut it off
permission.
Is when we don't know. Exactly, yes. So without further ado, let's get to our conversation with Manal Dwayan. This is a really good one, and she's just brilliant and lovely and just doing some amazing stuff in Venice. It's a cool opportunity.